I can't even tell.
I put patches on them.
Oh, nice.
Like if I pop a pimple.
Yeah, then you just put the patch.
Cute.
Oh, nice. Yeah, you can't
Great
even
intro.
Are we?
Pimple
Yeah.
popping.
Wow. You always throw me off here.
Okay, there's the first wow.
Okay, well, if anybody cares, pimple patches are worth the money because they are phenomenal.
Today's podcast brought to you by...
I forget that.
Yeah, what's the
I was just
brand?
like, I mean, like, I think
I
it's
forget
fine.
the name.
I think it's just
not
like,
so bad. Don't worry, we're not.
I'm gonna
pay
touch
for
you
it,
the
but I
entire
do love it,
time.
Yeah, she is gonna touch you because she always
Okay.
touches me.
I
and I'm
always
in the
touch
middle now,
Tamara.
so
I'm in the middle.
I feel like
love
you're
it.
gonna be interrogated by the both of
that's
us.
why we usually don't have guests in the middle, because I feel like you're gonna be like,
This is our
That's
best friend
okay.
Darcy.
this is Darcy, so we wanted to share
Hello.
Darcy today.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've never actually met, but we are best friends.
I
true.
have met her,
It's true.
We're best friends.
so I think that we're more best friends.
Don't fight over me.
Do you want mine? Do you want to do the intro, Caitlin?
I feel like we just did.
Yeah,
this
but
is Darcy. I
is
think Darcy
Darcy.
can introduce. You can
Yeah.
introduce yourself. This is always the most awkward, weird
So
part that
awkward.
people are like,
The
okay,
spot is on you, Darcy.
but then we'll
Yeah,
get
I don't even
talking,
know.
and
I'm
then
just
should we look at our sheet?
yeah. My name's Darcy. I moved to Kingston 10 years ago.
So you're not from here?
I'm not from here. I'm from Peterborough.
Okay.
Yeah,
I knew that.
family still lives in Peterborough.
Didn't know that.
Best
Yeah.
friend
But we're
status.
still best
So
friends.
moved here not knowing anybody.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
And school brought you here, right?
No, I had finished already and got a job with the city of Kingston.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
Started there, 10 years ago, and just stayed.
And you've stayed this whole time?
And you
I
love
have.
Kingston.
I love Kingston. Yeah, I do.
What do you love about it?
I love the waterfront. I love summer in Kingston.
Yeah,
for
summer
sure.
is beautiful in Kingston, Ontario. Just
Yeah.
for anyone who watches outside of Canada, P.S. Kingston, Ontario is a beautiful
Place to be. Yeah.
We had some people of yours, I think, from Paris on
Oh my gosh.
one of our, because Racine, we had a doula and a surrogate on.
Right.
And she had a family that she supported in France. Maybe it wasn't Paris. Maybe I'm paraphrasing.
In France.
But yeah,
Amazing.
that's what Paris is in France.
Yeah, you got it.
So you are a mom. You're a
I'm a
mom
mom.
to two girls, 6 and
5 and 3.
why do I keep saying 6?
Because you don't do your research. I'm kidding.
No, I've already been corrected once. That's what
Yeah.
you're here for. I'm the talent.
She's very mature, so that might be why. Yeah.
She'll be turning 6
In
hopefully.
June.
Next year. Da-da-da-da.
Okay, so say that again. So 5 and 3?
Yeah.
5 and 3.
Yes.
2 girls.
2 girls.
What's it like to be a mom of 2 girls?
I love it. It's
I
what I
love it.
wanted.
I love it for you.
Yeah, I feel like I am a girl mom through and through.
Yeah.
I could have 15 girls. and
Would
be
you?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, would
See,
be
he's
totally.
always like, I'm a boy mom, and I was
Yeah.
like, when we talked
I'm
about having
for sure
another
a boy mom.
baby,
Yeah.
he's like, you're gonna be a boy, you're gonna have a boy, and I was like, I don't want a boy.
Yeah,
I don't want a boy. I
me
want
neither.
I did cry
Yeah.
when I found out that Luke was a girl.
A boy.
When Luke was a boy, the whole way home I cried. And then now though that it's like happened the way it's happened, I'm like, yes. This is
I think that's what it is.
yeah, I did cry with Owen. I'm sure I did.
Yeah.
Did you ever like
it's-
grieve having like
Not
a
at all.
baby? Okay.
I
So
didn't
I'm
find
just a
out.
fucking
I was gonna
asshole.
say, did you find out?
No,
prior to
I
having?
didn't find out the
I
sex
didn't
of either of them.
Wow. Good for you.
And my first, everyone convinced me was a boy. So I had a weird, like when she was delivered, of like disconnection
Yeah.
of like, wait, I just gave birth to a girl. She's got dark hair, dark skin, looks nothing like me. She was giant. So it was, a little traumatizing that way. But then I was so happy to have a girl. And then my second, everyone kept saying it was a boy. My mom came to one of my ultrasounds and was convinced that the ultrasound tech said it was a boy. So she was like, no, she said him. And it was like 2 days before she was born. And I was like, I can't imagine myself saying me and my kids. I can only imagine myself saying me and my girls.
Aw.
And she was like, really? And I was like, yep. And then I had a girl.
So, but you come from a line of girls.
Yes. So I've got
2 sisters.
It's 2 sisters. So 3 girls. And then I had 2 girls. My sister did just have a son 2 years ago. So we've got
broke
the
the
first
cycle.
boy. Yeah. And
Interesting.
he's
carry on the name. I guess
Pray
not.
for him.
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
know.
actually wanted to point out something that you just said about like that disconnection in like birth. So like really with both my kids, but especially too like, and they say this, and I don't know how you feel about it, Tamara, because obviously you had a different situation, but like I when like I gave birth, I was like, this is weird. Like I didn't feel connected
No.
to the
Me
babies
neither.
for a while, especially like my first, like it took a while to be like we just met. Like who are you? Like,
and I have wanted to be a mom since I was 4 years old. Like I was like, when I was little and people would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? I was like, a mom.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, for a job. I was like, no, a mom. That's what I want to do
like,
forever.
that's the hardest job ever.
Yeah, that's what I want to do forever. And so I was just like so excited to have a baby. And yeah, that delivery was not at all like a movie in the sense that like,
First?
yeah,
baby?
my first.
Okay.
So literally, and like, this is blunt to say, somebody could have taken the baby away and I would have been like, Kate, like, bye. Nice to, yeah. Like
You were just
I was just like, I don't know what just happened to me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way to prepare somebody for that.
Yeah.
And
disconnected, right?
I was just so disconnected.
And also,
and
like,
then, and like
traumatic a
in
little
shock.
bit, yeah.
There was a lot of trauma around that birth also. So yeah, it just like was, and then it was like we got back to our own room that night and I was like, okay, I love this baby. And then I feel like every moment after my love for her grew.
Yeah.
But my second was way more that instant connection. And I think it's because I'd experienced it. Like I was like, I at least somewhat knew what was going to happen with my body.
Yeah.
But that first was like
yeah.
just so nobody could have prepared me for it.
Yeah. And that's the thing I always
Yeah.
I always say this, like there's no such thing as a birth plan, and like it's not just so happy like here's your baby, oh we're in love. Like I remember like mine is fucking, I don't even know how I'm gonna handle my next birth. Like I'm just like, throw me to the sharks, because I was thrown literally to the sharks
Truly,
last time.
yeah.
So I don't know how to care for a child. Well, I don't really know how to care for a newborn. I never had that experience of placing it on my chest. It was, here she is. She's going to the NICU now. But I remember disassociating very soon after because Gwendolyn wasn't supposed to live.
Of course.
So I remember again, like when you were
Kind of that,
saying,
like,
I can relate
block.
to that. Like you kind of disconnect in a different way. And then shortly after, I remember being with her at night, her and I in the NICU, and me looking through the glass, and I'm like, we got this.
And do you
It's
feel
you
like
and
you
I.
almost had to like tell yourself that's my baby?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I had
because
to be like, I'm your mom. Like
yeah,
it is
absolutely.
going
I
to be
didn't,
you.
like,
and
convince
I
me.
wouldn't
yourself.
Like,
fear. Like I was in the
Yeah.
hospital. They kept me in the hospital, bless their souls, for more days than what they could have, just because of the situation and the circumstances that were going on outside of my birth.
Yeah.
But people would come and see me and they're like, so like Gwen, and I was like, yeah, I haven't seen her today. And they're like, oh, well, it's 4:00. And I'm like, yeah, I haven't, because it was just so touch and go that I just pulled myself away.
Yeah.
And I think birth is so scary. Like we were just talking to a friend that's pregnant and she's due like any time now. And she's like, yeah, I really don't know what I'm going to do.
No,
Like, there's
and
no
I
going
don't
back.
think-
Who?
At the market. I don't like to say people's names.
yeah,
Like,
okay.
I mean, I know
I'm
we
like,
do,
where was I?
but it was like, oh, I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
hadn't thought of it.
I remember.
I don't think
She's
you
like, get
know
this
how to
baby
like
out.
prepare a friend for it
Yeah,
either.
it just- 'cause
Like
it's so
I'm like,
different.
my mom told me her experience. My
Yeah.
friends had told me their
Yeah.
experience. I thought I knew everything.
Yeah.
But like those contractions and that delivery, I'm like, no, I don't. You can watch every movie. You
Yeah.
can. I thought I knew that in and out. But like when it's your body, it is
It's
Yeah.
so
taboo.
your body.
surreal. It's
What-
just like surreal. Like I just did not expect that.
It's a goddamn movie and you're the main character.
Yeah. And I wasn't prepared for
You're
that.
probably always main character though.
We're obsessed with Darcy. And for those viewers that are listening, she looks like Ariel.
What was your second labor? Like, was that good?
Outstanding. I'd give birth to her every day for the rest of my life.
Perfect. Great. So it,
6
like, made
minutes
up for it a
beginning
bit.
to end.
Seriously.
Yeah, 6
And it
minutes.
was in the hospital?
Yeah, outstanding. I guess
the one during
beginning
COVID?
to end was total like 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's
But
okay.
the actual delivery was 6 minutes. It was outstanding. I loved every second of it. They expect her to be 11 pounds. She was 14. So like
Jeepers,
tiny,
mama.
tiny, just a tiny thing.
Good.
That's nothing.
Yeah, no, it was great. I loved it.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
okay.
But this was, you mentioned when we were chatting prior to this podcast, that you had a birth during COVID.
Yeah. Well, actually right before.
Right before
So
COVID.
she's December 31st and it started that March.
Okay.
So it was more the.
We were in the hospital at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was not giving birth, but I was there.
Yeah.
I was on that
Okay.
floor. So you
Yeah.
would've- okay.
Yeah, December 31st. Mhm, New Year's baby.
Gwendolyn's December 23rd.
Oh, yeah. And What year?
She was 2020. What year was she? 2019.
Yeah. So Adia was like a week younger than her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
She was 2020.
No, she was 2019. She was 2019.
December 2019. So like
I got pregnant.
Yeah. Same.
In the same year, and I gave birth because she was
because
20.
I was
she was
pregnant
supposed to be
with
March 2020.
Owen.
She was supposed to be March 2020, and she came early, so she was 2019.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like my
I'm
girls
following
are
now. Yeah.
2018
You would
and
know,
2019.
right? Yeah.
I would fucking know.
You know. Yeah. Yeah.
I may not know certain things, but
like technology, but okay.
Don't question me on that.
I have to ask you. So you had really good birth, but so you have been battling. What's it actually called?
Neuroendocrine.
We know nothing because we want to be authentic about this part.
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, neuroendocrine.
Okay. Neuroendocrine cancer. What is it?
So, cancer within your endocrine system,
What is that?
like your hormonal system.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like hormones are hard to begin with.
Yeah. And really, like, we just really don't know anything. Obviously, doctors know some stuff about it. We, as like lay people, don't know a lot about it. It actually started in like 2016 that I started having a ton of symptoms.
What were the symptoms?
So I was like working out a ton at the time and it started with like getting really bad headaches when I was working out, and then I would like actually black out, and then I started fainting, and it was a year of like misdiagnosis. And then they finally figured out that I had a tumor on my adrenal gland, and it was spitting out like mass amounts of adrenaline every time that I would work out.
And that's why you would black out?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and it would really like my blood pressure was so high that it would, yeah. So I would black out from that.
And your cortisol levels too.
Insane. Yeah. So they were like, it's like you're running a marathon all of the time. And I'm like, I thought that was just like my personality.
Your glands can get like burnt out too, right?
Yeah,
and just stop functioning too on top of that.
Yeah. So there was a lot with that. Ended up having surgery in 2017 to remove the tumor, which at that time was benign.
Where are your adrenal glands?
Like abdomen area.
Okay.
Like
you have glands here, don't you? And then like down in here.
The adrenal itself is here.
Okay.
Like down in here. Yeah. So they did like a laparoscopic surgery, but the tumor was pretty big. So they had to open one up a bit bigger, but it was good. As soon as it was done, I was like pretty much back to normal.
Yeah.
But then they did genetic testing and found out I have a genetic condition in which I'll grow like these tumors on basically any nerve bundle from like I guess my head to like my pelvis. And they're like, we should like just kind of live your life, but we'll have to do scans every year to make sure that you don't get any more
holy
tumor.
Shit.
So at that point,
so you got this diagnosis.
I didn't get the cancer diagnosis. So it's not cancerous. No. So it's just this genetic condition I have. The tumors, some of them can like not affect you at all, and it really just depends where they are. So because that one was on my adrenal gland, it was like forcing my adrenal gland to overwork, and that's why I had those symptoms. And then if I had them anywhere else. So when I was pregnant with Adia, they had found another one in my liver, but they didn't think it was connected. Okay. They were like, this is something totally different. Lots of women actually have lesions on their liver, and like we just never do anything about them.
Yeah.
I just like had a bad feeling and was like, I think it's weird that like I had a tumor in one spot and now you're telling me that I have another, but it's
how
not
can it not
connected.
be connected? You're young, you're healthy.
Yeah.
So I have a specialist in Toronto who is like the best in the world for this condition.
That's great.
And yeah, so I called him and was like, what do you think? And I just kind of feel weird about this. And he's like, no, actually like liver lesions are really common for women and it could be totally unrelated. He's like, if you've been on birth control for a long period of time, sometimes that can cause like these small lesions and really we do nothing about them. And I was like, I don't know. I just have like a weird feeling about it. Like, can you just check it? And he's like, okay, come on in for a scan. So they did a scan and blood work.
While you were pregnant?
No, right after. Okay. So they had to wait so they actually did a biopsy after Adia was born. And that's what happened is they called me and said, we don't even know if we got it, but like, we're just going to leave it. We don't care. And I was like, I don't know. No. Like,
good for you for advocating so much for yourself.
Didn't get it. Yeah. That's funny. We just
why were you in there? And then what do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Like you went in through my stomach, pulled something out, but you don't know what it was. And like, I don't know.
You're like, hopefully I didn't need that.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Sorry. Every time it was joke to crack.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
how Katie handles her emotions.
Okay.
Just like,
yeah.
I think I've picked up on that. Yeah. I think I know your guys' MO
you
here.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's clever. We're good friends all here.
So then I called the Toronto doctor, went through all that, and they sent me for a PET scan, which is like basically a cancer scan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I had like 11 tumors, I think.
What?
Yeah. So
okay. So they found one. And then all of a sudden the scan.
They were like, this scan just basically like lit up and was like, no, you have like 11 tumors, all different sizes, all different places in my body. And then, so this was all during COVID. So
super alone to begin
I was
with.
completely alone in this little room in Princess Margaret.
Just had
a baby. And my mom
child at home.
had to watch like my two babies. They're 17 months apart. So they were like both still babies.
And your family's still not even from here now, right?
So like my family lives 2 hours away.
Right.
But I have like the best family, and my dad had cancer most of my life. So like at least like was involved in the medical process. Also very like medically intelligent, knew the system, knew his stuff. So he would take me to my appointments, but he wasn't allowed in the hospital. So I was upstairs in like this room by myself, and I know my specialist, but it wasn't him. It was this other woman.
So you didn't have a rapport with them yet.
At all. Had never met them. And she came in this little room and she's like, so we have one option for treatment and hadn't said anything else yet. And I was like, what are you saying I have? And she was like, cancer. And I was
just like that. The C word.
What?
Yeah.
And I honestly feel like I like blacked out the rest.
Yes.
Like I don't remember really anything else.
And alone too. That's really
We just
hard.
had Dr. Jackie on, and I don't know if you know or listened or whatever. It doesn't matter. But she, again, was saying when she received her son's diagnosis, it was more or less, this is this, and this is what we're going to do. And then she was just kind of blacked out. That's when she started to pull back, disassociate.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what happened to you as well.
Yeah.
Which, like, because you have to surrender. Like, it's like,
and there's just no processing time. Like, it's just like,
it's just
here you go.
I was just going to ask, do you think that there's any way, and I think I might have asked Dr. Jackie this, maybe not, but like, do you think that there's any way that you could have like gotten that news better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like
absolutely. I feel
there's
well, I mean, sometimes
so
for
much.
me, I'd be like, just, I don't know. Like I guess.
I don't think it had to have been like gentler. I just think after you deliver it, there's like a level of support that I absolutely did not receive.
A level of empathy.
Yeah. And just like, you're a human with a life outside of this diagnosis. And like, that's the part that I think was very challenging for me in the whole process.
Was that because of COVID though? Or was that just the process?
Yeah. It's also a cancer hospital. So I'm like, are you just so used to it
Accustomed
that
to it,
you
kind of shut off,
forget that? Yeah. So,
which is a shame.
Yeah. Yeah. So, historically they've done chemo for the cancer I had, but it's not very successful. It's kind of like we can buy a bit of time, but we're not really sure. Like it doesn't shrink tumor size
for you.
Yeah. So the reason that was this doctor was she was the doctor for a study, and that they had one space left at the hospital, and I had to get in by December, and I was diagnosed November 4th. So she said, if you want the spot, you have to sign the paper today. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're like, what is the treatment? What? And also like, I'm obviously not saying no to it, but like, what is it? And that sort of thing. Yeah. And obviously like you guys in that position, I'm like, what about my kids? Like what happens? Like, where do I go? And what about work? And I'm supposed to go back to work in a month. Like all of this stuff is like instantly in my head. So I don't even, I kind of forget how the rest of that went.
No doubt.
So do you start treatment in December? So
I started
November 4th?
Yeah, so I had to be in the program before January 1st, but treatment started the end of January.
That's so fast.
Yeah.
That's very fast.
Yeah. And very fast for like I had no symptoms, right? So like I wasn't sick.
So you're in your body, something's going on.
So there's
but you present
a lot of like mistrust with my body still that I think would be like one of my side effects of all of it was just like knowing something's wrong with my body, but not really feeling something's wrong with my body.
and trigger for sure. Just like, really not having comfort to like even trust how you're feeling, but also like if you feel fine, are you really fine?
Actually fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like that made you like a bit of a hypochondriac or?
No, I don't think I'm that way. I would say like the biggest place it displays is actually like working out. Like I've wanted to get back, like for a long time I was told I wasn't allowed to work out, and then while I was in treatment I wasn't allowed to, and I've been trying to get back into it.
See more in your body.
And it's one of those things that like as soon as I start to work out, if I feel my blood or like my heart rate rise, I'm like, oh, is
You're
that
fearful.
Is that
a
or is that
tumor,
just
or is that
me?
like a normal, I'm actually
Yeah.
like working out and my heart rate should rise. Like, so that's a really big
Okay.
like mistrust thing for me that I definitely struggle with still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I don't mean to like bombard you.
No,
but I'm
go
just
ahead.
genuinely
Bombard. We
curious.
have a lot of
Yeah.
questions.
What did you say over there?
We bombard.
We do.
Okay, so this is a genetic thing.
Yeah.
I've dealt with genetics with Gwendolyn, and like, how frustrating is it? Like for you, I know for me, I'm like, whoever the fuck did this genetic thing, I'm going to, seek them out. But
Yeah.
the thing is like, there's nothing we can do with our genetics. We're all walking genetics, form of something.
I feel like it's so
out of our control.
It's so like unknown though, even because
it's
like
always
even
a growing thing.
based on what
yeah.
you've said, even if you get the testing, you still don't know. Everybody has to get the testing to know for sure. So like, Gwendolyn had genetic markers, but then Tamara has to get tested and Gwendolyn's father had to get tested and all these things, right? So it's like it's not always, everybody's so different.
Yeah, so that's actually a really big thing in my family right now is all this genetic testing.
So they're doing it as well?
Because they found it in me. I did genetic testing like 5 years ago when I first had the first tumor. And they know it has some connection to Dutch heritage, and my dad's Dutch. Okay. And so his mom was Dutch, likely came from his mom to her children. But when it comes from a mother to a child, it's less likely to present negatively in their lifetime. Okay. But when it comes from a father to and then it has a 50% chance of being passed along.
Isn't that crazy?
So 3 sisters and all 3 of us have it.
So
Wow.
Yeah. So
your 2 sisters have it as well.
they both have it. My youngest sister has had a really crazy year with it in the last 12 months.
I have so many questions.
So she has a ton of tumors and she's had to get like some pretty intensive surgeries this past year.
Wow.
And then my middle sister also just found out that we kind of assumed like we're like 50-50, Kaya and I have it, Ricky doesn't, but she does also. So yeah, we all do.
Your poor mother.
I know. Yeah. But I think the really scary part is, and like, we're all kind of like advocating for each other together through all of this. And like, is
Be
that
each other's support system through that as well.
yeah. And like, but how it can kind of present differently. So like for me, it kind of went to like the worst case scenario. It did turn cancerous, which is unlikely. And then Kaya's, her tumor placements were in like really crappy areas. So she had to get open heart surgery this year.
Oh my God.
And then
How old is she?
25.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you the oldest sister?
Yeah. The oldest. She's
the
the
babies.
youngest. And then Ricky's in the middle. So just very hard. Like, so Kaya found out she had multiple tumors. When I found out I had multiple tumors, mine were cancerous. So it's just like she automatically assumes that.
Yeah.
And I think the doctors are very dismissive. Like, and they're like, oh no, the chances of being cancerous are like less than 5%. And
this
she's
is
like,
what happened. I've
and she's like,
experienced it
but
with
no,
my
in
sister.
my family,
Yeah.
it's not 5%. Like
Yeah.
for me, that's not the ratio or whatever. Right. And so that's been something we've kind of all been dealing with. And then so Maelle is positive, 80 is negative for the genetic condition.
I was just going to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
But because it came from their mother, there's less likelihood that it'll
likely that
affect
it will.
her negatively.
So you mentioned that your father had battled cancer like most of your life.
Yeah.
Did it present, like, was it the same as what you guys are dealing with? Something
so really
different?
Yeah. And so a lot of people, because they know it was genetic from my dad, and he was also diagnosed like maybe like when he
I
was
would've just
40.
assumed, yeah.
So his is actually a totally different cancer.
What a great question I had.
Yeah. Great question.
Thanks.
A lot of people assume that because
Yeah.
like once they find out about me, they're like, oh, it's the same. My dad was diagnosed at like 42,
I want to
I
get to your
think.
dad a bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very soon. But I want to know as well. So we've surrendered to this diagnosis. It's now cancerous. What does the treatment look like?
So it's called PRRT, like peptide receptor.
Because this is a
something.
very, very rare cancer.
Yeah.
You've said.
Yeah. And so this treatment is basically like a combo chemoradiation. So it's like a chemical form of radiation. So it's an injection, but it's radioactive. So the big like issue for me is that I wasn't allowed to be around anybody for 10 days. So I had to be isolated for 10 days each treatment. including like the nurses, the doctors, like nobody was allowed in my room. Like,
And you were up in Toronto for this treatment?
yeah. And that was all during
Didn't
COVID.
you have to go out west at some point for treatment as well? Am I crazy?
No. Yeah, no, not for treatment.
Yeah, I'm crazy.
You might be a little bit.
Okay,
I
yeah,
tell you
either
every
west
day.
or something else.
Yeah. That might have been just for fun.
Hopefully just for fun. Okay.
Yeah. So definitely the most like traumatic part of this experience for me was definitely just leaving for
That
treatment.
isolation, yeah.
I had like a 1-year-old and a 2-year-old. And my 1-year-old was still breastfed. I wasn't allowed to breastfeed anymore. I actually wanted to talk to you about that. And like, I'm sure you have experiences with this with your children as well, where just like when something traumatic happens and like you grasp onto one small thing that you want control over, and like the part that should have been traumatic to me should have been the cancer diagnosis, but the part that was traumatic to me was having to stop breastfeeding.
Breastfeeding.
Yeah.
And
I think that's like anxiety though, because I know this is like gonna sound really dumb, but like we're going to New York right next week, and like with my anxiety, I get hyper fixated. So right now I'm hyper fixated on my shoes and my feet.
Yeah.
And like I've been
She's
wearing.
been diagnosing herself.
No, I'm just like,
the
it's the one
hyperfixating,
thing. I'm like,
that's-
everything else
yeah.
is good, but I'm like, are my feet going to be okay?
It's
and my
because
shoes
we
going
as,
to be
as
comfortable?
humans want control. So you do hyperfixate on things, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you, even though you feel like you know the outcome and you know your feet are going to be okay, you hyperfixate with some control because we can determine
And like
the outcome.
logically, I like my child stopping breastfeeding my child is nothing compared to me not being there for my child. So like shouldn't have been
But
as
in
big
the
of a
same- I
deal.
guess
But
the
that
way
was
That's what
essentially-
you shared, the two of you.
Yeah.
That's what
that
I
was
mean. In the
like-
same way, essentially, though, that is being there for your child. That's an experience that only you will
Yeah.
be able to have with your child.
I
Like,
think-
I
yeah.
absolutely think
Yeah.
that's so valid to grieve that. Like,
Yeah.
it is something so special. It's something so limited. You know what I mean? So even if you,
Yeah.
you know, luckily got through all this.
Yeah.
That's
And I think
so
it was the
important.
being told I had to stop, right? Like
I
I just naturally stopped, or had like I decided I was done, but it was like somebody was telling me you have to be done by
can't do
this
this
date.
Because this is
Yeah.
dangerous for her to kind of
Yeah.
thing. And that's very true. Like in the NICU, one thing that we do have control over is, you know, pumping and feeding. And in Gwen's case, it was pumping, and she was getting my breast milk through her G tube. So that was one thing I had control over with
Yeah.
the whole thing for a lot of months.
Yeah.
But I know other mothers, when they're put in this situation, of course, if you're stressed, you're not going to lactate the way you would normally if your baby was at home, because it's such a psychological thing.
Of course.
So they would have to stop. And I remember seeing them just grieve not being able to produce, because they're like, I feel like my body failed, and now I can't produce this for my child. So
Yeah.
it's definitely when they're like, you know, there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. Hugely like connected to grief for
Yeah.
sure, that I was grieving that.
That's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard and
Yeah.
so lonely. So
How
how long was treatment for you
It
then?
was 4 treatments total.
Okay.
So every 6 weeks, between January and June. So I had to leave my girls for 10 days who had like never been left anywhere. So my mom would go up to Kingston, stay with the girls for 10 days. I would go to Toronto, and then my last like 3 days I was able to go to Peterborough, but I'd have to stay in the basement while like my dad and sisters were upstairs.
Hello,
So I'd be
up
like, can you
there.
Talk to me through the
send
bed.
down food, please?
I'm
Yeah.
thirsty.
yeah. Yeah. So, very odd experience, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, was like pretty lucky. Like, I don't know if you guys have this assumption, like if you imagine yourself in my shoes in that sense, like getting treatment, if you expect treatment to like feel a certain way, like expected.
I think so. I think there's a stigma around
I
it.
expected like once you started injecting me, I would like feel emotional or feel like, wow, this is happening. And I was like, I feel nothing. Like,
I still
isn't
don't
this
feel nothing.
supposed to be like dramatic in some way? And it was just like,
I think I would feel exactly how you are describing that right
I
now.
just was like, oh, this is it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm getting treatment. Like, I had a very hard time being like, I am doing this right now. Like, whatever's happening
Feel
inside
like
my
it's
body,
being
this
Maybe
is
you were
fighting
shocked
my
too a
body. And
bit? Like,
but
yeah,
probably
it's connected to
too.
protect
You've
you.
had
and I
that-
do really feel like now I'm like, I really probably could not have done this podcast last year and talked about this. Because I feel like I really realized like those 6 months were like sheer survival for
It's
me.
scary,
like
isn't it? So scary.
there's so much that I'm like, I did not process, did not connect with, did not like, was not aware of. And I put everything on the end of treatment. Like I was like, the day I'm done, like I am celebrating. Like this is it. I'm done. I don't have to worry about it
It's not like that.
at all. Like I'm like, oh, it's actually never done.
This is grief too.
It's never done.
Yeah. No, you're going to go
now
through your
you will
whole
have this
life
forever. Yeah.
grieving those 6 months and how you were.
Yeah.
And you fear ever going back to that place because you were so fucking gone.
Yeah. And
but
it, like,
you were
wasn't
survival mode.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? How
It's very crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm like just coming around to all of it. Like,
because you're talking about it.
Yeah.
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 Opening
That's
up
true.
about it.
Yeah.
Learning coping skills too with like school and things like that.
Yeah.
I feel like though, like I've been following you at least 2 years.
We're
Like
your biggest fan.
at least stalking you, we mean. But I've been following you for a long time, and like and I know like social media is not real, but it
is though.
It is like what you admit is like so much like positivity and like cheerfulness and silliness, and you're so present, you know. And so I really think that like I'm glad that you're here talking about it, and thank you for being here talking about it, because I'm sure it is really, really hard. And I just think too, like going through something as big as that, and maybe we would be like the same in terms of like how we would cope a little bit. Yeah. Like it's just, it's like, I'm happy to see you being able to have such a positive outlook, because I don't know if everybody could have like live like that. Do you know what I mean? After being so
there's like so many things with it, because so I'll have to like shout out one of my best friends, Alicia, who's also my cheesy pair partner.
Your pair. Yeah.
She called me out hard, like mid treatment. Like I was halfway through the year, so I think I'd done 2. And she's like, "You're so fake." And I was like, "Pardon you?"
She does it to me all the time.
And she's like, "You're just really being fake right now." And I was like, also like, screw you. I'm actually going through a lot right now. And she's like, "No, everyone thinks your life is perfect." And she's like, "You have gone through so much in the last 2 years and nobody knows." Yeah. And I was like, they don't have to know that. Like, I'm also a happy person. And I'm not lying by sharing that I'm happy too. Those things like can coexist. And she's like, "No, you need to share something." And I was like, "No, I don't." Like,
I remember this post.
I'm so scared of pity. That is like something that I am like, I'm scared.
You're resilient, but you're scared of vulnerability.
Yeah. I'm like, do not pity me. Like, and I don't like that at all. And, so I like waited until the 1 year anniversary and made like a reel about it and was like, I'm going to share it. And I was scared to death. Like I watched that reel every day for probably 2 months myself, and would read like the caption that I wrote and be like I had to be okay with it myself.
Right? It's
like
hard.
accepting it.
It's easy to be resilient.
I think
people can be strong, right? But when you're vulnerable, that's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
So kudos.
I think there is a difference though between like on Instagram, especially like seeking pity and like seeking that attention versus being authentic and showing up for yourself, but also for you, like
it was very healing for me.
Yeah, like
it is healing, sharing your
taking
journey.
your power that you have gone through this, and you've gone through something major, you know, and you do deserve like recognition for things that you've been through in terms of like, you know, strength and time and healing. Like that's important. And people who are
funny
around you
because
wanna
I
see that.
actually talked to like my therapist at the time about being like, okay, I think I'm gonna do this, and I was like, am I seeking validation? Why am I doing this? Is this attention seeking? Is this? And she was like, why are you feeling that way? And I'm like, am I just looking for people to say I feel sorry for you? Or and then when it all like, and I was like, I'm just gonna like risk it and do it. And when I did it, I was like, it was actually so validating to like the entire, from my diagnosis to the end of treatment, I probably told less than 10 people. Like there was probably less than 10 people in my life that actually knew what was going on.
That's lonely for you too.
Yeah.
You know, this is now a part of you. Right.
And that's what I think a big thing with all of this is, or like any of your grief or any of your trauma is like, it is just a part of who I am.
It's a part of who you are now. You weren't the same person walking into that.
No.
As you are now. You formed from it, right?
Yeah.
And I think you sharing help a lot of people too.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
Yeah,
you know,
thanks.
and I get the part where you're like, you know, I had to be called out because Katie, I remember early on in my journey, you'd be like, how are you doing? And I mean, and I had a grief burst not too long ago, and like Ryan reached out to her and was like, you know, Tamara has gone off the deep end. But no, I laugh at that, but it's really not funny.
Yeah.
And she would say, you know, she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. She's like, no, you're not. You're not okay. And that's you're okay to not be okay, but I think we have such a hard time being I don't know,
You
vulnerable.
just want to
up.
you just want to like shelter yourself. Sometimes I think it's really important that you have friends that can hold you accountable to
And just be like,
Huge.
you're
but
not
be
okay.
there,
Yeah.
be there to support it, because you don't want to like burden people. You don't
Yeah.
want to like put heavy
Yeah.
things on people. You
Yeah.
you know, it's easy to ignore really difficult emotions
Until
and
it's
feelings
not
and
anymore.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So in terms of how did the treatment go?
Well, so that was like when I said about kind of finishing treatment and wanting that like ring the bell moment and whatever. That's something I'll never get with my cancer because
Right.
it's incurable. So I will
I feel like you should
never
still ring the bell though.
I know.
Like,
So I
let's
did
get a bell.
actually. I need a bell.
Yeah.
So I did actually have like a couple girlfriends that I like was like, I need to celebrate this. And I told my family like, because at first I was like, I'm not doing anything, like whatever, it's just going to happen again and whatever. And I was like, no, like no matter what, like this is going to be my life now, but like this was the end of something. And so like, and I did it, and like,
I
let's
need a
celebrate.
goddamn reward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a little celebration with my friends and stuff, but that's definitely something I've really struggled with is like, even within the cancer community, other people get like remission and they get like, okay, I'm good for now.
Right.
Whereas like, I don't really get that. And that's a weird, like, I just have to live with this. And I
That's where
am
that
really
anxiety
coming
comes
to
up,
a
though.
good place with it, I think, where I'm like, okay, for the last 2 years now, I have been living with it and lots of wonderful things have happened in my life and life still goes on. And like,
There's life after.
yeah. So I think I am really learning to live with it, but there's, I mean, obviously there's still like anxiety around my appointment times and stuff like that. But yeah.
What does follow-ups look like? What does the future?
Yeah.
What does
so,
future look like?
Yeah. So I'm just, so the goal for me will be maintenance.
Okay.
So like maintenance in tumor size, maintenance in blood numbers.
Okay.
So they won't go away, but hopefully they don't grow is
Yeah.
really what we're looking at.
Absolutely.
Did they call it maintenance?
Yeah. They call it maintenance.
What an interesting
term,
Word that
eh?
they use.
Yeah, way to say
Feel
that.
they-
Yeah. We're looking for maintenance is what they said. So,
That feels like disconnected, right? Like
Yes.
like not.
I feel like we could have a whole
Emotional.
podcast just on my experience with the medical system.
We can do.
I
yeah, let's
also
get into it.
have a serious business plan for us three.
Great.
So-
We love business plans.
Let's do it.
yeah, I do.
I'll add it to
I
my
do.
list of
A
other
lot.
businesses.
Yeah, I have a real good business plan for
Okay,
us.
is it a
Here.
secret or is it?
Do you want to talk about
Is
it?
it a secret pitch?
Let's hold it after. Let's
Yeah.
hold it for after.
We'll hold it.
Okay, I'll work that in.
We might have to do, yeah.
We'll put it in.
Business
Podcast
planning.
2.0.
So maintenance.
So maintenance. So since my last treatment, things have been maintained. So
Great.
that's good. So
Congratulations.
yeah, thanks. Scans and blood work every 3 months, and then I just got pushed every 6 months because things are
That's
good.
a
So-
huge deal. You should be.
It
go
is,
and
but that-
celebrate
But you
that
also
too.
get nervous.
No.
You're like, what?
Yeah, maybe I'm still working on that one. I didn't actually want it to go to 6 months. Like I was like, no, I don't.
Can
like,
you fight that? Can you say like?
So they did my one, I forget why they did end up doing one more. Oh, I developed a blood clot. So they did like do an additional. They're like, no, we're going to do
you
one
say it
more.
so casually.
Yeah, it's pretty common, I guess, with my condition to get blood
It's common
clots.
for your condition, but that's not common. That's like
Yeah.
a big deal.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know that stuff now. I'm like, no,
See?
what kind of blood clot?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good, Darcy.
I'm lucky.
You're good. That's fine. No, it's
And
fine.
I
that's
catch
small.
it because I'm
See,
trained.
but my friend said this. So my friend,
Yeah.
my shout out to Kath. She just got diagnosed with stage 1 melanoma. And it literally happened. We were partying one night in the summer, and I was like, what the fuck is on your back? And she's like, oh, what do you mean? And I was like, that doesn't look okay. And then eventually, like, other people were saying things. Her husband was saying things. Maybe you should get this checked out. And again, everything was okay. They, like, went forward, and she went in for appointments. So, like, yeah, we're going to, like, we're going to just take a sample of this. But again, nothing to worry about. And then eventually, like, a week later, they're like, okay, you need to come in and get this removed. Like, this is stage 1 and this is very, very powerful stuff. But now she's like, I was like, how do you feel moving forward? Because thankfully, she's clear of it. They've caught it just in time. But she's like, I'm happy because I'm going to be followed for the rest of my life for every 6 months or a year or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when you say, well, actually, I don't feel very good about being followed less or being, you know, let go a little bit.
You want to
of
stay
those
close.
chains.
Yeah.
Because it's like you come so accustomed to this.
And I think you imagine it as like my doctor has his caseload of however many people,
Yeah.
and the people who are most critical would be his most
Yeah.
like the people he's caring for the most, which is the way it should be.
Yeah,
But as
triage.
I fall down the list, I'm like, are things being missed?
Are things being missed? Are they going to be redeveloped? Yeah, it's very...
So it's just,
that's why you have to have the
scary.
knowledge to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
But also you can be like, hey, you have your list of the most sickest, but I'm the most anxious. So like, where does that rank?
And I know I don't present I do, but I totally am.
Yes. That's, totally. I'm usually like calm, cool, and collected.
I remember every time they like with specialists with Gwen, they would be like, okay, you don't have to come back now. And I'm like, but why?
Yeah, no,
like,
I want
pardon?
to.
But I want to.
Yeah.
But this is a good thing. But why?
It doesn't feel good.
No, not at all, because you have followed us so closely. And I think when Gwen died, it was so tragic for me because, well, obviously tragic in itself, but I didn't hear from any of them
I remember.
until I reached out. I reached out to a specialist and I said, you are our family.
Yeah.
I talked to you the night before. And she actually called me crying and she's like, it was management that told us that we couldn't until a certain timeline. And I'm like, well, fucking disheartening on management. Maybe it's okay for some families, but I needed to hear from you.
Yeah.
I needed to hear that you said that you recognize that she's dead now. I needed you to hear that because you were our family, and you.
And that was like with my dad. Like for 20 years, we dealt with the same doctor, and we've never heard from her.
Never.
Yeah.
And like a lot of it does. It is like management, and it is the books, and I'm like, fuck the books. You're a human too.
Sounds like though,
feel
like
with me
on the outside here because I've heard a lot of it, but it just there's so much lack of empathy, emotional support. Like, you know, they're there to care and provide, but the caring part, they're missing the mark on, you know, on the emotional side.
Hugely.
Like what, you know, what's that movie with Robin Williams, the doctor?
Which one, Mara?
He was a doctor in it. Joey, do you know this one? Flubber. No. Joey, what the fuck? Not Flubber. That
he was a doctor in it.
He's a doctor.
Give us more.
They would no.
Give us more.
He's a therapist in that one, but a very good movie that one is. Can we Google it because it's really important that I talk about this because doctors like himself or back whatever.
I need more than
they were. Robin Williams doctor. Just say that movie.
Robin.
We're Googling just one sec, guys, because I really need to know this.
Patch Adams.
Yes.
Yeah.
Patch Adams. Have you seen that?
Yes. A long time ago.
Highly. If you guys haven't seen this, I really suggest seeing this. This doctor, like, I know it's a movie, but it's very true. There are some doctors
Patch
out
Adams,
there.
the 1998 American biographical comedy drama.
But he doctored in a way that many don't anymore.
I know. And that's what I think where I'm like, I believe it can be better.
Absolutely.
Like, I believe that most doctors go into the field for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I think the system changes it.
It is the system.
I think the system changes it too, though, because there's been such a big thing on mental health. And so now I feel like there's this division between mental health support and kind of people washing their hands and saying, well, that's not mine. That's not my field. That's not my place. Go see this person. Go see this person.
I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'm going to bring it up because you are an advocate and you and I have talked a lot about advocating. So before Gwendolyn passed away in January, she was admitted. I met with a specialist and I talked to my therapist about this the other day, and I'm being re-triggered by a lot of her procedures. Okay. And this one being one of them because this certain specialist, I won't say names, has been in the media a lot for being recognized. And kudos to him, hats off. You know, you did your time. But I really didn't get the version of him that is being put out there. He made me feel like I didn't know what I was talking about. You know, I seen him in the fall leading up to this, and I said, I want to avoid any hospital admissions for my daughter because of the condition she was born with. She was, a lot of GI issues were brought up, and he was a GI specialist. That's all I'll say about that. But he made me feel like, everything's okay. We'll monitor it. We'll maintenance it. And I'm like, okay, but I want to avoid the whole maintenance part. I want to make sure that we avoid it altogether. This girl has had so much happen. She doesn't need that. Sure enough, we were hospitalized in January. And leading up to this, she was very sick. I was trying to call his secretary, the clinic, constantly. And it led to the point where I was kind of out of line maybe, but I called her and I said, I don't know. I'm sorry you're going to get the brunt of this, but somebody needs to fucking call me back now. And sure enough, we were admitted that night. And it was a horrible admission. It got to the point where I was like, if you don't admit us, I'm going to walk up there right now. Well, you can't do that. That's a closed ward. I said, watch me. So we were admitted, and the morning of, the specialist came in and did the whole sandwich thing. Oh, well, we're going to dive in deep here. And then in the middle, I'm going to let you know the way you acted was inappropriate. And I go, the way I acted? Like, that's how I felt. I was like, woo, man. Okay, now Mama Bear's out. Yeah. And I said, take that off. Take your coat off right now. Take that white coat off. Imagine this. Take that white coat off. Take your stethoscope off. Be in my position. I said, are you a parent? He said, yes, I am. And then he goes, and that's why I do have a family outside of this practice. I said, if you can't care for my doctor, you need to tell me right now, because I have an option to go to Toronto or Ottawa. And then, because I wouldn't let down. And he goes, I understand that you're upset now. I said, you've pushed me to this point. I told you prior to, and here she is again, hooked up on the machines. She has an IV running. She has MPO. She can't eat. So now we're at this point of having to do a procedure because she has a possible ulcer and all of these things. And he made me feel just so poor of myself and so poor of my decisions, and made me feel so dismissive. But in that moment, I was like, oh, fuck no.
But like, you were wrong, but you were like, I'm just asking for care.
So
like,
to that point, but you do. And I just remember talking about this, and he ended up apologizing after, right? Good. Because he went in and seen that there was an ulcer there, and this little girl was suffering, in fact. Yeah. And it just brought me so much trauma that we even had to be there in the first place. But I remember talking to my doctor after, my family doctor, who was incredible. And she said, like, poor him. You're working in such a vulnerable area. You listen to the parents because they are the voice of the child. And it just scares me to think that people are so intimidating. It is a very intimidating place.
Hugely.
And he intimidated the fuck out of me.
And we are made to believe that, like, there's a power struggle there. Like, we are made to believe that these are the people we trust.
We have to trust them. We have to surrender to them. There's no other way out. Yeah. And lately I've been triggered by that. And I think because he's been showing up a lot more. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't deserve that he thinks that,
Yeah.
I feel like you should address it still. I like have a grudge against this like teacher that I had in grade 10, and sometimes I think about finding her on Facebook and like
I do want to
writing a message to her. I swear that I had a message typed out in the middle of the night one time to her to be like,
this is how you made me feel.
It may have to leave that. Maybe I just have to write myself a letter. But again, I never heard from him.
Yeah.
And he was a specialist on her team. He was trained at, no, I'm not going to say anymore. Sorry. Yeah. I'm just going to shut my mouth about this. I don't want to get in trouble, but
No, but it's true. And it's like how you're feeling, and especially with your sisters
parents
and
out there
testing.
Or anybody in the medical field, fight. And if you're a little tired, fight some more, because honest to God, you have the right to speak.
And
the right for care. The right for care.
The right for care. And if you're not receiving the care, then send me somewhere else.
Yeah. We pay a lot of taxes.
We pay a lot of fucking taxes.
Okay, we're getting off track.
That's a lot.
No.
I'm heated.
Okay.
No. So fair.
Yeah.
So of course you feel that way.
Yeah.
Of course you feel like on the little like, but what do you mean you're gonna cut me loose?
Yeah.
On the emotional side of it, you've started school for...
Yeah. So as soon as I finished treatment, I finished in June.
This year?
No.
Last year.
Treatment was
2 years ago.
June 2020.
2020. Oh wow.
I
okay,
finished.
We're 23. What
yeah.
do you mean?
June 2020. No. June 2021. I finished treatment. That August 28th, I told my dad that I was applying for my master's, and he was like, "Okay."
You're a social worker.
So, not by trade. I did.
Okay.
So I worked for the city
Yes.
as a case manager for the Ontario Works program.
Okay.
I've been doing that since I was like 18.
Wow.
And knew I needed a change, but like had been looking at this degree for 5 years and was like 5 year, or like the 3-year degree feels so long. I'll be like an old lady by the time I graduate. And like, why would I do that? And then I had this realization that I was like, I'm 30 and I have the same number of working years left that I've been alive.
Wow.
So like my only perspective on time frame is 30 years. I have to do all of that again, and I have all of that again to work.
Yeah.
So like I might as well be doing something I want to be doing. So
3 years feels like a really long time when you look at it, but then when you've like lived it, you're like, it's been no time.
like I have a 5-year-old, so I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what? Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
like I'm like, yeah, it goes by so fast. So I had to be like August 28th, I sent in my application for school. That's the day that the applications closed. Did it all that day, and found out on September 2nd I was accepted and started school on the 3rd.
Congratulations.
So my dad drove from Peterborough to Kingston the next weekend and said, you made a big mistake. You need to drop out of school. And my dad is like my voice of reason for life. Like I can't make a
Shout out to the
decision
dads.
without my dad. Yeah. And I was like, but I like fought him on this. And I was like, no,
like it was-
I was like, this is what I need
is
to
what I
do.
need to do.
And he was like, you have 2 little babies at home that you need to be there for. He's like, you have like, because of your treatment, have not been with them for like as much as I would have been over the last year. He's like, you need a year to calm down, to like soak up life, to figure out what's going on. And I was like, no, I spent the last year being scared to death of the future. And like not planning for the future.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is a 3-year degree. And I was like, that's the first thing in so long that I've been like, something in the future is going to happen
For me.
for me.
For me. Good
And
for
I
you.
said also, I felt like it was actually the right time with my girls because they go to bed at 7.
Yeah.
And I was like, but once they're in school and once we're doing homework and
Your
once
girls
like,
go to bed at
extracurricular
7?
activities.
My kids go to bed at 9:30.
do they? Yeah, I'm like getting through school. There was some nights that there were tears of like,
That's a lot, 'cause you were
please go to,
working
so I was
too, right?
working full
Yeah.
time. I worked through all my treatments, like worked full time. And then choosy pair. And then
You're like,
school.
let me go to school. Let me be a mom. Let me work
Yeah.
full time. Let me throw another side business in there.
Yes.
Let me have all these friends. Let me have family.
So as
go
you
to
guys know, I took a
treatment.
big hiatus.
You did.
I did
Yes.
just have my big, like, finally the universe hit me and was like, slow the fuck down or
Or you're
something
gonna
else
be
is going to
slowing
happen.
down. Yeah.
Something else is going to happen.
Good for you for recognizing that.
So I did it. That is not easy for me. My coping is definitely to be busy.
That's another.
I
I'm
still
also,
think even
that is
stepping
my
away-
addiction.
Me too. Busy.
Yeah, I love
addiction.
it, but I'm also like insanely energized by it. And so I really struggle with that balance between like I actually like get a thrill from this feeling and is it actually healthy? And
Yeah.
like that divide.
Yeah, I can understand. I think
I
though,
really
just
struggle.
taking that out, you still have like 15 other things there though.
I do.
So,
Yeah. I still had a
you
lot.
know, you're like, I'm extra busy and now I'm just going to be really busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So when did your dad finally come to terms with you going?
Yeah,
through
so
this?
he just kind of like was like, I know you're gonna do what you want to do, and I was doing really well like the first year or whatever, and yeah, so that was good. I did take my first summer off. I was supposed to go through the summer, and that was also like actually the summer that my dad was like really sick and everything, so it timing wise was perfect. I was like, I did need that. And I was really I think when I like applied for school, I didn't actually imagine the end of it. Like I kind of was like, okay, I'm making a plan for the future, but this is like healing me therapeutically like right now, and like I probably won't ever graduate.
It's
Like
all
I'm not
just an
really gonna do
idea,
it
though, at the time, right?
And so
Until
like
you're living
I
it.
just finished coursework. I'm into my practicum now, and I'm like, wait, am I really like I just quit my full-time job? I'm like, am I
here. Yeah,
doing
so
this?
You let's go to that.
Let's
I
jump to
that. Where is it? Confidence to quit your 9-to-5 job. Wow.
So that's not me. Like I know, like that's you. You can do that.
I was on mat leave.
Okay. Yeah.
When I
that
started
makes
the
a
biz.
difference. But I do feel like you're very just like jump in.
No,
both
every minute
feet.
I'm like, oh, I should get a job. I should get a job.
She
Yeah.
fights a lot with it, but
And then I'm
But
like
do you know what-
January, and then I'm like, no, I'll take January
even
off
just
February.
like the store, and like I feel like you're very just like jump 2 feet, see what
I
happens.
wasn't always that way. I was
Okay.
always like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to try this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And I would always like try it a little bit and then like back out really quickly, or like be too scared to even like try anything.
to be quite honest, I still can't believe we're going to New York. Like I said to her the other day, I said, this was something you would have never done. She was like, let's go to New York. The next day, 2 days later, we were booking it. And I was like, is this actually fucking happening? Because you would
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah.
But you would never act
I
on it.
always-
Okay.
I have a lot of anxiety, and I think like people see me as an outrovert, but I really feel like I'm like an introvert with good social skills.
Outrovert or extrovert?
Extrovert. Like,
I can, sorry.
everybody, let's
Joey, I
document the
fucking
one
did it.
time
I
that
corrected her
Tamara
on one thing.
has caught me on something.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Please go to your story, 'cause it is a good one.
But it's true. Like I really have like really bad anxiety. I went through a really heavy phase of hypochondria, like really intense. There was like a period that I wouldn't even drive because my anxiety was so bad. And so I think like after having the kids and having that freedom to do something, I've always been like super entrepreneurial, always loved business,
Artistic.
always like love being creative. And I think the kids changed me, even though I still really like battle myself sometimes. The kids changed me in terms of I'm like, so even with the store, like so many people are like, oh, I'm so sorry that it closed. And it was really successful. But like Joe and I had a conversation and I was like, I'm just gonna try this for a year and like see if this is what I want to do. And I just like, and I did it for the year, and I was like, it's not really like aligned with what I want in my life right now. It's not aligned in like where I want my time to be right now.
Yeah.
And I just think now it's like more important to show the kids to like try it, and it's okay to change your mind. And that's how I explain it to Luke now too. Like
That's
it's
where we
okay
differ.
to change your mind. Do you know what I mean? Like it's okay to put yourself out there and to just do new things and try and just and change your mind and like whatever. Like every 5 minutes I'm like, I'm going to go to hair school, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm going to do this. Like, you know. And
so I have all the ideas, same like you. Like I think we have the same brain that way, and I will do them all. Yeah. But I can't quit anything.
Do you feel
like I don't mean you quit. I actually think it's like a mindset thing that's really, I'm like still in the midst of really working on that for myself, where I'm like, it's not quitting. It's like changing your mind, and like
that's scary.
Things end. Like,
but I just think too, I guess too,
and
like
I'm
going
not good at that.
What we've been through too, I know that like, I just think like really like what's the worst that could happen. And I think like, because you're saying like we have the same mind in terms of like passion and like
the creativity and the ideas. And
absolutely. I was at a point for a really long time that I never could start. And then when I got that courage to start, then I'm like, it's okay if I did it. I did it. And now I'm like, okay, I did it. And sometimes I think like, you know, when you're talking about treatment, you're like, okay, I'm sitting here, I'm having this feeling of like, okay, I'm in treatment. When I was at this, like doing the store, I was like, before I even opened, I was painting. I was like, okay, like, am I going to have this like, wow moment of like, this is so great. This is so cool. And like, I had those talks with myself, and I was like, in my mind, like, you know, like, this is great. But I had so many more smaller moments in business that I was like, this is really cool. Like the first year that I was with Kingston Community Votes and got Platinum Candle Company for Kingston, Shelby Cramp is like our MP for the area. She sent me like a certificate that was like acknowledging that, and like a little letter of like congratulations. And I was like, that is so fucking cool. Like I was like, I feel so proud of this. And there's been other like just like
mine is a photo shoot. When I get like a business photo shoot, I'm like, I am legit.
Like,
this is me.
There's been some moments.
Check it out.
That people will come and approach us like with the podcast or like
no one approaches me
certain things, and I'm just like, what?
But there's more minor moments. So I think for me too, like
it's
with
humbling.
I just say the store because that's a really big one. That was a really big chance that I took on that, and I'm so glad that I did it, and I learned so much. And like maybe I'll do that again in another way, in a different time when like my kids are older or something. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like we're constantly growing.
I just feel like no doors are closed. I feel like every single door is open, and if I close it, I can open again. Like I feel like I can do whatever I want.
You know what I mean? Brought up, I think it's generational too. Like it was always
like, you never give up. School, you're committed.
You get your job. You're set. You're there. And now it's like well, for instance, my mom, she quit her management job for many, many years and went into like PSW at 50 something years old. Yeah. I admire
and
people
that
like that and the discipline that
I
it
had
takes.
like pension benefits. I've been there since I was 18. Like, and like, and I'm a single mom of 2 kids. Like I only have my income to count on. I only have like my benefits for I also have cancer. Like I kind of need my benefits and so it was a very hard decision to come to. But like I'm very like need to talk things through to the people I love in my life to like make decisions. And like I'll do it 500 times. And my sister said to me
anybody about big decisions. I'm like, this is what I'm doing.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I definitely need to like talk it through. My sister said to me, she's like, I think you can't make a decision while your feet are planted somewhere. And if you look at your history, you're successful in every endeavor you like try. And because that was my worry, is I was like, I'm going to quit this city job. And then like, what if I
Then
don't have a
what?
job? Like,
Yeah.
what if and she's like, you have so much to fall back on.
You'll
like
find a way.
It's
and like,
absolutely true.
if you look at the history of you, like the history of Tamara, like what is that? And like the history of Caitlin, like
You're
what
gonna make me
is that?
cry.
And I'm like, okay, the history of me, like I have and not a resume, like a job resume, but like your portfolio of like who you are. So I was like,
Who are you as a person?
I'm like, I have the qualities to be a hard worker. I have some education to back me. I have like work experience to back me. I have a number of like additional skills I can randomly make money at.
That's what we teach our students.
have-
It's not hard skills, it's soft skills. Like, are you a good person? Like,
Yeah.
what are you as a person?
Yeah. And I have like a network. Like I have people that I
Yeah.
could say like, hey, do you need some help with that? And like,
yeah.
so it did take me a long time to like really come to the decision. And then I was just like,
What is
I'm
that
gonna
saying?
Do it.
You're one decision away from.
A totally different life.
That's fucking
Yeah.
exciting,
It's
but
true, though.
terrifying in the same
It's
way.
so
and
true.
it's so true.
I just think like
That made me almost cry. Just
I
saying
think
that.
like,
I was
it's
whoa.
the happiness though too.
Yeah.
It's the passion, but it's being like fulfilled and being happy, and that's why I feel like everybody who said it to me, a friend. Okay, I know who said it to me. A friend said to me when I was closing the store and I was talking to her about all these things. She's like, you can't have 40 different jobs by the time you're 40, and I was like.
but why?
Why? Like, I just want to do whatever I want to do. Like, if I'm
Yeah.
making money and I am like being able to express myself and be happy, then like, why can I not? Like, I don't want to do one thing forever. I want to learn, and I
I'm
want to
quitting
try
my
new
job
things.
tomorrow.
And like, I know, right? I know. Which leads
Okay,
us into
this
our
is
business
a
plan.
actual, like, this is a very minimal version of what you just said.
Tell me.
But yesterday, I sent a Snapchat to my boyfriend, and he was like, love your outfit. 2 minutes later, I changed, and I had sent another Snapchat, and I'm like, don't be mad at me, I changed. And he was like, I'm not mad at you, but pick a person. And I was like, never.
yeah.
I never will. Like,
yeah.
I want to wear every style of clothing. I want
You
to,
can.
like, I will never
You can
be.
just do whatever you want.
I want to be cute one day. I want to be sexy another day.
Yeah.
I want to be like
Yeah.
funky one day. Like
Yeah.
that's
Wanna
what I
be
want.
edgy.
Yeah. I want to be all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's important because like it's exactly what I'm saying, that I feel super blessed that, and it sounds like you're super aligned in the same, and Tamara, I know you are too, that like I feel so blessed that I can I know in my heart that like everything will fall into where it needs
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah.
I just need to be genuinely myself, follow my intuition,
And be present. And we talked about
and
this.
I think
Be
that everything will be
present.
okay. So your dad finally did give his approval.
Yeah. Yeah.
Getting back to it.
Yeah. He never like, I did actually. And I was like, you're not supporting me. And it was kind of like a thing. And he was like, I've never not supported you.
Yeah,
Like,
of
you
course.
know,
It's
I've,
my job to
and
just
he's like,
make
but I'm,
Don't
and
worry.
like, when I look at it from his perspective, I'm like, his daughter had just had 2 babies alone, lived 2 hours away, was working full time through treat.
scared for
Like,
you.
he was like, you need to breathe. Like,
On
you
paper,
need to,
right? You're
yeah.
like,
And
holy,
he's
that's
like,
a lot.
he said, like, he's like, I know your character. I know how much you can handle, but I think this is too much. And I was just like, no, like I don't even care if I ever finish. I just knew mentally I needed something, like some sort of future plan for myself
Yep.
that I could like accept
Immerse
that I'm going to
yourself
be here in
and-
the future. Like,
Good for
that's
you.
yeah. So,
And here you are.
yeah. And like on that, I guess I do feel like a sense of privilege with the diagnosis I've had, which I know sounds so weird, but
Explain.
I just think that I have a perspective on life that lots of people don't get.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is so heightened now.
Yeah.
It's almost, and like my boyfriend and I were talking about this last night. He's like, you're so funny because if you listen to a song, you listen, you're like, oh my God, that one lyric, and you hold on that
Yes.
one lyric and you're like, I love this forever. He's like, but then you don't listen to the other lyrics and you don't know what the song is about. And I was like, but why can't I just hold on to that one lyric? Why can't I just fall in love with the little things in life?
Yeah.
Because when you lose something or you surrender to something like you have in your treatment, and you have experienced loss yourself too, which we'll get to, your whole perspective changes. Everything in life is so heightened that I just can't even, you're like, wow, you almost become a child again.
Do you feel like you?
So I actually think that I've kind of always been like that.
I was just going to ask
am
if you were always like a small
Yes.
things person.
Yes.
I am more now, so I think.
always,
No, you
have,
always
been.
have been.
You think?
I would say, yeah, like, and I don't obviously know you before,
Yeah.
like, but I would say that I think it's like kind of in your nature. And I think I'm like, I like joke that I'm like a toxically positive person. Like I like silver lining in absolutely every scenario. I'm just like wired that way. And like for some people, I think this would really bring them down from that. And it just didn't for me. And I just like really, I think my biggest lesson was that like two truths can coexist. Like I can be scared to death and so excited about life at the same time.
Joy and grief.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like, I think there's a billion, like I did an Instagram post on it, like about like all of the things I'm feeling and like their dichotomy, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like
it's
I'm
okay
like,
to feel these things.
Yeah.
And they can coexist. They
yeah.
really can. Life after loss.
I feel like that's
coexist.
the lesson I just keep learning is I'm like when we talk about cancer and I'm in that world, like, yeah, I'm scared and I'm like worried and I'm not sure, but like, I'm also love being a mom and I'm so excited about things that my kids are doing and I'm so excited about the life that we get to have together and like
you're okay
those
to plan
things,
and you're okay to think of the future
like
and you're okay to
Jackie said, like she said to her, you know, Katie asked her like, are you, I keep referring back to her because, you know, she had to surrender to a cancer diagnosis through her child. But Katie said, are you ever scared that he's going to fall out of remission? And she goes, I try not to go there because why would I when I can live presently and be in that moment of gratitude?
Otherwise your life
I also get really like, and I don't
taken in a way.
Yeah. And I don't think I like really stick to this point or it's like a hugely, like it doesn't consume my conscience kind of thing. But like when you're given a diagnosis like that, you have to like view your mortality, which we never do. Like as human beings, we never look at that. But I've had to just simply because of the diagnosis. But if you actually look at the statistics, like I am more likely to die on the way home tonight than I am.
Jesus.
I am.
You're talking about
Yeah, sorry.
but it is true.
Like just straight statistics. Like why
it's like flying in a plane versus driving in a car.
Cancer that like why did we make it that scary?
It
like,
could be anything.
It could, and like
this isn't helping the hypochondriac in me.
But I think it gives me a sense of like the surrender on like we are all gonna die.
Yeah.
And like
it's like
I'm posting a post here soon. We are only guaranteed one thing in life, and that's to die. Growing up is a like what is it? What
a privilege.
Privilege. It's a privilege. Yeah. You're not guaranteed to grow up. It's fucking
so
horrible.
I have a book recommendation.
Okay.
But also like with a caution.
Okay.
So it's called 4,000 Weeks.
I think
which is the average lifespan of a human
will you write that
being.
down for me?
As a human being?
4,000 weeks.
4,000 weeks is the length of time.
4,000 weeks.
That's
only?
it. 4,000 weeks.
That's like the 18 summers.
Yeah.
4,
and so
weeks?
first the prologue. Oh, yeah, there it is. That picture. The first, like the preface and the intro first chapter, I was like ready to burn the book. Like I was like, I'm never like, this is the most depressing thing I've ever read. This was shortly after my dad died. And I was like, he got 2,000 weeks. Like, fuck this. This is stupid. Like, I'm not reading this. But then it gets really good. And it's not really like, it's not as depressing as those first two chapters where it's like, it's just kind of that reminder that it's like, we do only have this one life. Like do what you want to do when you want to do it. And
death is, there's such a stigma around death, and it's celebrated in other cultures.
Yeah. And I think it's like just that reminder that to be present, like you said, like, it's like just mindful. It's like, if you want to work your 9 to 5, work your 9 to 5. Like that's, no one's saying like, go skydiving tomorrow because you only have 4,000 weeks, but it's more just that like, are you consciously making your decision?
It's about happiness. It's about love. It's about surrounding yourself with like people that are supportive. Like
there's always a way.
I guess it's just like those like values, and maybe my values actually, if I explain that and you're like, maybe that's not aligned with me. But I think if people are just being true to what their values are, maybe it's not like.
I think it's just being super mindful, like of what you want, when you want it, and how you want it, and who's in your life, and. Just $10 billion is like
me.
Yes, please. That's
what my values are.
I went to Vietnam for 4 months when I was in my undergrad, and had so I have like a pretty strong first aid background, and there was a ton of accidents while I was there, and like a couple drownings, car accidents, like lots of death, and it was probably like my first. I was like 19, 20 or something, like my first like exposure to like really be involved. Like I was like doing CPR on somebody and that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
And I mean, culture shock on top of it. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
wasn't
what I mean.
speaking the language. And so I spent like my first month like devastated, and it was like, what do you mean this country is surrounded by like 70% water and no one knows how to swim? Like, there's no such thing as swimming lessons in Vietnam. And I was like, it just logically
start a
doesn't
business
make
there.
sense. And like, their emergency department is on the 3rd floor of a hospital with no elevator. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Like, I was just so angry. And I remember talking to the director of like the organization I was working for, and I was like arguing him, and I'm like, your whole culture doesn't make sense to me. Like, I don't get it. And he looked me in the eyes and he said, I don't know what it is about Westerners and their need to live.
Yes.
And I was like,
yeah.
what? And he was like, death is also a privilege.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? And he's like, all you do is try and keep people alive for as long as humanly possible. And like life expectancy.
Suffering.
Yeah.
Let's keep them alive.
Yeah.
It's because it's selfish to like people around you, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And that's a scary
And for
thing.
me,
We
like, I
scare
don't-
death, right? And we mourn it and we show up in our black and
there it's so beautiful. Like,
And
a life is so celebrated, and like
Mexico. I want to go Day of the Death. Like the way they celebrate it is just, this is another thing to life. This is another stage.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So that was really eye-opening for me. I think it's like something that we need to continue to remind ourselves. But yeah, I think that's changed for me a little bit, that I'm like, I don't know, like it is, we do just get this life and we have no say in how long it is.
Yeah, I watched this TikTok of this, I think it was Peru maybe, and this guy, he like found a girl and he was like, I'm going to Starbucks and I'm going to fly wherever she's from. And then I think she was from Peru and he flew there and he was trying to get this view of a temple, and he said there's these fires everywhere. Like, I'm in this like right in front of this temple and there's fires everywhere. And he had a guide with him and he was like, why are like all these fires? And he's like, their bodies, and they're burning these bodies outside of the temple. And he was like, in the video, he was like, I'm just like couldn't comprehend. And he was like distraught about it, like just because it's so different than like what we're conditioned to believe here. But you mentioned your dad. Do you want to talk about your dad for a second?
I want to talk about your dad.
Yeah. So tomorrow's actually the 1-year anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah. Since he died. Yeah.
Are you gonna see your family?
Yeah. So very P.S. I love you. But my dad sent letters to us throughout the year.
Oh my God.
So yeah. So for Christmas last year, he got my mom and sisters and I a spa gift certificate and said, like, I want you guys to go together and I want it to be when the leaves are changing. And it was already like Christmas. So I said to my mom, I'm like, I feel like that's him saying he wanted us to do it like on the anniversary of his death. So we're going tomorrow to St. Anne's Spa. Like,
oh my God, that's lovely.
Yeah.
You'll be so relaxed and taken care of, and it'll be nice to be with your family.
Just like all together and
Oh, like P.S. Tamara had never seen that movie.
just watched it
and I told her to watch it.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed.
It it really like tears your heart apart.
That's
So your dad also did pass away from cancer as well. Is that?
Yeah. So my dad was diagnosed with multiple myeloma. I think when I was in grade 12, maybe. So, he was told then he'd have 2 years to live, but didn't tell us. So didn't tell his family anything.
Not even your mom.
Nope.
Because then you're putting a number on it.
Yeah. He didn't tell us he was sick. Yeah. So for a while, kept that to himself for a while. Once he started treatment, it came out. Yeah. And then, I mean, he lived like the next 20 years with it. It affected our life like very briefly. He had 2 stem cell transplants within that 20-year period.
Like that's a lot. I have a friend that went through that as well. Yeah.
But outside of that, like when he got his stem cell transplant, he brought his bike into the hospital room, like his stationary bike, and got the stem cell transplant. And the next day was on his bike, and the nurse came in and was like, what the fuck are you doing?
Like, who is this guy?
Yes. And that's like my dad. Like, yeah, like
so definitely you're his daughter.
Resilience.
Yeah.
There's resiliency.
And like a busybody, and yeah, very similar in that way.
It.
Yes, very, very similar.
How has grief been for you?
Interesting.
It's not anything that they say that those stages are bullshit.
So I'm like, I think that it should be taught in school.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Grief and wellness, yes.
Because I'm like, I thought, like so my dad actually did assisted suicide.
Yeah.
So we knew like for somewhat like the day that he was going to die and that. And I was like, he talked to me about it. Like, how do you think you're going to be? And I was like, I think I'm going to like, it's going to be super hard, but I think we'll be okay. And he was like, yeah, you're going to have 2 weeks. He's like 2 weeks of depression. You're going to be bummed out and then you'll go back to life. And that's what I thought it was going to be. Like, I was like, I'm going to be in my bed. I'm going to have such a hard time, like being a mom.
That's
and
true for people who have somebody distant maybe, but
I still haven't had it. Like, I still haven't had a day in bed where I've cried. And I'm kind of like worried about it. Like, where you're like, should I? Yeah. But I just think I have this like really overwhelming sense of gratitude. Yeah. Like, I'm just like, I feel so fucking grateful that was my dad.
Yeah.
Like, so like, I never want to stop talking about him. I never want to stop telling stories about him. I feel like so excited, so proud. So like, yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, like no one got to experience him like we did. And
how beautiful is it?
Yeah, it is beautiful. I'm feeling like fall has been really hard for me. Like more has come up.
Changes
in fall.
In the seasons are hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I also feel like fall was like when he was always in his element. Yeah. So I don't know if that's part of it. Yeah. But yeah. I
have to ask like about like the assisted suicide. Like what, like obviously that's, to me, that's like, for anybody that hasn't been through that seems really like overwhelming, seems really scary. How does somebody make that decision? How does their family cope with that versus, being in a situation that you aren't really sure know. Right? Like,
I actually like talking about this. Yeah, we were with him. So he was at KGH actually most of so he was like from when he really got sick to when he died was like about a 3-month time span. Mm-hmm. So they lived in Peterborough, but he was airlifted to KGH when like everything kind of happened, which was like kind of a blessing that out of all the hospitals, like he got to, so then my mom lived with me for those 3 months and we got to like be with him every day and stuff. So that was really nice. And even like for my sisters to come, it was easier just cause like I had somewhere they could stay and all of that. There was a lot of up and down in those 3 months of like, he's not going to get better. He is going to get better. Like really mixed communication medically. Lots of complaints I have about like the medical system in that sense. But about halfway through, pretty early actually, I had to have like a really tough conversation with him. Like I feel like as a child, that's a hard conversation, but I knew like no one else would have been able to. And we just had that relationship. My dad always said like, he's like, I will never be in a hospital. Like he hated hospitals. Like you're not gonna like, he's just such an like adventure outdoor guy that he was like, I'm gonna like die on my kayak someday, like in a freak accident and that's it. Yeah. So I literally said to him, like, if you need me to break you out of the hospital and drive you to the water somewhere and you do what you got to do, like I will do that for you. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I'm not there yet, but I'm close.
You're the best daughter.
Yeah. And he said, he's like, you're the only person in the world that can have this conversation with me. Wow. And I was like, and I was like a very hard, like I was like choking up and I'm like, I will take you. Like, I will do it. That's like, I don't want to, but I will. And so that's when we kind of started talking. It's called MAID, the assisted suicide. It's like medically assisted intervention or something like that. And so it's quite the process though. So you have to like apply for it. Then they have to go through some psychological testing. You have to be like in your right mind to make that decision and all of those things. So he had been kind of talking about it and like started the process, but they also kept being like, well, like you might just be in a wheelchair forever. You might just, and so, that sort of thing there was a lot of up and down there. And then towards the end, he, decided he wanted to go back to Peterborough. He was in palliative care in Peterborough. And I think there was like a 5-day time span between when we got the okay to like that we could go ahead with MAID. And he was going to like proceed on a Friday. So it was the Monday to the Friday. But his whole goal was like to get home. Like he wanted to go home one more time. And he hadn't been home in 3 months. So we like, it was just this huge deal to like get him home because he was also like immobile at this point. So, but it was like, again, very heartwarming to like come to all this. So he was a firefighter his whole life. Like the firefighters all came together and like carried him into our house and like we set him up, and my sister's a nurse. So like her and I were like injecting him all night and but he like declined huge in that 24 hours. He was supposed to stay home for 2 days, and we called the hospital and we're like, we're taking him back. Like, we can't do this. And it was very like, he's going to take his last breath. And we really struggled with like, do we just let him take his last breath at home, or like, do we follow through with MAID? And my dad was such a control person that I was like, he really wanted this. Like,
He's
that's
like, I've
how
signed the papers.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing.
And like for him, like philosophically, to know that he decided the day that he was like done was, I just know that would have been like important to him. So we got back to the hospital and they were like, he won't make it till Friday. That's for sure.
Was he coherent?
Up and down, like, so that's what was actually really hard. So the Monday he was super coherent. He had to actually like tell his life story to the nurse. So like was like, I was born here to this family, and like and then I met like my mom, and these were like my 3 girls. And so super coherent. And he said like, he's like, and I want the 3 girls here, I guess 4 girls, like with my mom here when the procedure happens. I want them holding my hand. I want, like, he was able to pick all of that. And we were all like present for that decision. And that was the plan for Friday. So super coherent. And then the like everything turned as soon as we got home. And when we got back to the hospital, it was on Wednesday. And they were like, we don't have anyone to do the procedure till 4. And the doctor came in and she's like, but I don't think he's going to make it till 4. And I was like, no, like, you told him this is how it was going to happen. Like, you have to do it. It has to happen. And they were so amazing. Like they fought so hard for him. And they came in and like, we all had our hands on him and they do an injection and it's like very peaceful. But I said, I felt a little bit of guilt leaving, being like, he should have been coherent. Like, he should have been. But then after, I was like, maybe that's what he wanted, but he would have wanted it to be however we could handle it, because he kept saying to us, like, are you sure you guys can handle this? Like, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and like,
he was more concerned about you than he was himself.
And then I keep thinking about it. I'm like, at the point that it was at, I literally would have found a needle and done it myself. Like, that's how badly I wanted. Whereas had it been like, he was totally coherent, it was on the Friday, he was like, I love you girls. Like, I would have been in jail for her assaulting the nurse that did it. Like,
why would you have done that?
So I'm
but
like,
you were just fighting.
I was like,
again,
it really
for him
did
and, like,
happen the way that I think it was supposed to. And it was.
sorry
you
about
have
your
closure
dad.
in that sense. I mean, it's
it
hard.
felt.
There's no right or wrong. Like, you're like, it's just it's so
will never be
confusing, isn't
easy.
it? It really is. It's such a weird thing.
And
but it
I
doesn't
think
need to be.
Yeah, I know. I think we just need to talk about it more.
Yeah, we do.
I think that the whole thing was like much more beautiful than I ever expected. That's for sure.
I want to know your dad's name, and I want to know your favorite memory.
Yeah, me too. Tell us 2 favorite memories.
Okay, so his name was John Boker. My girls called him JB.
My dad's name is John.
Cute.
Oh, yeah.
JB.
JB. Yeah, I was joking with a friend today, like, because my mom's gran to my girls, so it was Gran and JB, and I was like, he sounds like the new husband. I'm like, he is their legit grandpa.
That's so funny. Yeah, the boyfriend.
Which I would love to tell you guys some days, just the crazy experiences I've had with my girls. Like,
We need to know.
Definitely connecting with him.
We need to know.
Yeah, we need to know that too.
Insane. But yeah, oh my gosh, that's one thing when I say like how grateful I am. I would say, like, if I think of other relationships in my life, I can come up with like 5 quick memories, and those are like the 5 prominent memories. I can come up with like 10,000 memories with my dad instantly. Like, when you ask me that, I'm like, I actually don't know what one, because like there's thousands and thousands and thousands. Like, we did so much with my dad.
And he was really active.
Very active, but also like an insanely involved parent. Like,
I love that.
We like even just little things, like my sisters and I had to memorize a poem every summer, and then we'd have to like present it in front of our family at the end of every summer. And like my dad had like him like a different challenge for us like every couple months.
That's
and like my
good.
dad biked to PEI a couple times from Peterborough, and would like set
a couple times.
Yeah, just a couple times. Was like, hey, to my mom, like, I'm gonna bike to PEI tomorrow. So would set up a map like in this like wall in our house, and then go buy us all stickers, and then call us every day to tell us like where he got, and we had to like put a sticker on the map,
so
like
fun.
where, yeah. so many, like,
I
so
mean, like,
many.
I feel like that
I feel
is
so alive
why
after this.
you
Like,
are who you
yeah.
are, though, because
Truly,
you have literally grown up with a person who, it sounds like he had so much like will to live, aspiration, drive,
So many lessons, and
built
like
that into
very,
you.
very conscious
Yeah.
lessons too. We, like, my dad wrote letters to all of us, like, regularly. So like my sisters and I are like, we've been like starting to reread letters, and we're like, it's so crazy that every time I grab a letter, I'm like, oh, that's the lesson I actually needed today. Like, and it'll be
it
like,
just always clicks.
it's like so perfect. And
Yeah.
like just so many crazy things that we're
Aw,
very
I love
privileged
hearing
to,
that.
yeah.
That's so nice. Oh my
Yeah.
god. Okay, before we wrap up, thank you for sharing all this, but I need to know our business plan.
It's like, okay, so I'm like, I don't want anyone to take it.
First of all, okay, well, we can do it off camera, because I think what our business plan needs to be is teaching swimming lessons
In Vietnam.
in Vietnam.
So I did do that before I left.
Thank God.
I did first aid and swimming lessons.
He's like, I'm going back to this.
I'm like,
Can
somebody
we
needs to get
go
to
to
Vietnam.
Vietnam?
life jackets for these people?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that was I ended up fundraising while I was there, and I did
Of course you did.
taught first aid
good
and
for
swimming
you.
lessons. Yeah. So I mean, I felt a little bit better about everything when I left.
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago or whatever it was. Yeah. But
Your
yeah,
legacy could be carrying on there.
yeah, it might be. They might have.
I
just-
hope so. I
I think we should talk about the business plan off camera, but I think we should maybe touch on that she is a businesswoman. She's a
You got your
boss fucking
business.
lady.
Are you
Tell us
going?
about
Are
your
you
business.
getting up the cheesy pear going again?
Yeah, I am.
She has.
I am.
Good.
Took the whole summer off. Was really like, don't know what would happen. I feel like you get so much social media stuff where like you need to post every day. You need to be consistent.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I took
it takes the
3 months
fun out of
off, and
You were still posting.
lost 5 followers, like, or whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'm saying, like, and it's like picked right back up. And I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
saying I expected this. I'm just saying, like, if you need to take a break, you're allowed to take a
It's
break.
okay. Yeah, absolutely.
And, yeah,
and
it's
you're
going
taking
really well.
bookings?
Yeah.
And
quite
you
a
make
few.
amazing. What do you make?
Charcuterie.
Fancy charcuterie boards.
I know, Caitlin, but I'm prompting
Tamara?
her to tell me.
It sounds the same coming out of her mouth as it does mine.
Yeah, so just
But you've been
fancy
busy.
charcuterie. Yeah, it's picked
Weddings
right back
and
up.
things.
Weddings,
And
birthday
I saw that
parties.
board that you had, like the little cups. Love
Yeah,
that.
so I built like an arch last year that you can rent to like do little cups, but you can use it for anything. You can put like cupcakes on it, like anything.
I need one. Cool.
Well, I
Cool.
feel super inspired after this. Like,
Yeah.
I want to tell you that, like, I just feel so moved by your story. I think you're such a
you.
beautiful person inside and out. I'm just obsessed. I've said that multiple
you.
times during this podcast, but thank you again for coming on with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I just feel so uplifted and overjoyed and just moved by you.
Thank you.
And yeah,
Thank
I'm grateful
you.
that you're here.
Yeah,
Thanks
me
for
too. Thanks for asking me.
for
This is
sharing
so
your
fun.
story. No
Yeah.
problem. Okay,
Episode
hey,
14,
Episode 14. We have to do an outro, and we're gonna record an introduction finally.
Yeah, finally, episode 14. But remember to like and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate it.
And we'll drop
We've
a
been
link.
having a lot of, we did a NICU video 2 weeks ago after our podcast with Dr. Jackie, and it was in the double-digit
Amazing.
views. So it was very humbling. So again, thank you
Yeah.
so much, everyone.
What's the cheesy pear?
Yeah,
We'll
just
share the
at
info.
the cheesy pear. Yeah.
Instagram handle.
Super easy, but it's
No.
PAIR.
No,
no PEAR.
Cheesy pear.
I'm like, how do I
It's a pun.
spell? I know, yeah, it's clever.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. And we'll share the book link too. But
Yeah, that'd
everyone
be
say
great.
goodbye to Darcy, and thanks for
Bye.
joining us,
Thank
Darcy.
you.
Thank you.